My name is Lucha. I'm an Australian detective. I own the Kangaroo Hops Detective Agency in Melbourne. My favorite food to eat is kangaroo, and I never leave the office unless I'm carrying me trusty boomerang. In the heartland of Australia, there had been a terrible crime involving dingoes. Turns out all the dingoes in Australia had been murdered. I knew Retro Island Gaming had to do something about this terrible crime. I had a hunch about the culprit. I thought the culprit was a man named Retro Island Gaming. I had watched his stream very often, and even though he lived in Hawaii, I suspected it was him. He had a vendetta against dingoes. I knew he hated dingoes because he thought they were evil, like the dingo who had bitten a chunk out of his leg. So, I set off for Retro Island, and I arrived there after about 15 hours of travel. Retro Island Gaming, the man who hates dingoes. Why did you do it? He had been streaming while I was driving, and I could hear his voice even over the sound of the wind. Retro Island Gaming said, I did it because I hate dingoes. I also hate Australians. Do you know what I hate more than anything else? Retro Island Gaming asked. Lucha says, tell me. I hate kangaroos. I hate them, too. You know what I hate more than kangaroos? Tell me, Lucha said. I hate Australians, said Retro Island Gaming. Retro Island Gaming really seemed to hate Australia. Why do you hate Australians? What did we ever do to you? The Aussies kidnapped my great-great-great-grandfather. Retro Island Gaming said, they kidnapped him from a ship that was sailing from China to Australia, and they forced him to work on the Australian continent, without pay. Well, your great-great-great-grandfather sucked. No one liked him anyway, Lucha said. That's true. Still, I'm willing to let bygones be bygones if you let my friends go. Lucha suddenly stands up and pulls out a knife, which is really a spoon, and threatens Retro Island Gaming. I'm not afraid to use this spoon, Lucha says. First, you're going to have to help me find my friends. Retro Island Gaming says. Lucha refuses to listen and plunges the spoon into Retro Island Gaming's knee. Ugh. Says Retro Island Gaming, now, come along, we've got a lot of work to do. And don't try anything stupid, or I'll use the other spoon. Retro Island Gaming complied while tying several bandages around his knee to stop the bleeding and to look more injured than he actually was. He asked Lucha if he could have a glass of water, and Lucha replied, why don't you have some of this wine I brought with me? What is this drink? Retro Island Gaming asks, suspiciously. Retro Island Gaming asks if it's poison, and Lucha says it is, and Retro Island Gaming decides to drink it anyway to test Lucha's mind games. It turns out that the wine is delicious, but it's also poison. No, it's delicious. Retro Island Gaming says. It tastes exactly like wine. Can I have some more? Sure, said Lucha. Retro Island Gaming continues to drink the wine and eventually collapses due to being poisoned by Lucha. The wine was poison and Lucha wasn't lying. Lucha became king of the world and enslaved humanity into making more wine. The end.